Hello, friends. Oh my gosh, I'm so excited for this. I think I might have put too much because I am going to make sure I cover A to Z. And I feel super confident that you will leave after this class ready, prepared to look and buy a business in 2025. Put a lot of love and attention into this. I've been working on the packet for several weeks now. Think that we may go over a little bit of time, but I will absolutely leave at least the last few minutes to answer any questions that you have. I am going to dive deeper into the financials in the second hour for our VIP. That should not make anyone feel left out, though, because I've really covered a lot of what you will need to walk away from to actually put an offer in on the business. So this is an underwriting masterclass. I felt so compelled to share what it is that I have been doing behind the scenes with looking at the different types of businesses that have been flowing our way. And it's such a scary topic that I want to make more simpler for everyone. I feel as though that the underwriting process is the part in which stops people from moving on and finding and looking into a business because it just seems very advanced and like there's going to be things that you don't know about this particular topic and this particular part, and actually looking into a business that I have made this very simple for you to do. And I'm excited to share what it is that I've been doing behind the scenes. So, we're not going to make it sound scary, and we are going to take out this like very scary word when it comes to business and call it a business analysis. The financial part of it just seems like you need to have some sort of background or degree in finances, and it really just isn't the case. And so, what I want to share and the goal for this presentation is that you are going to know exactly the data, the documents that are needed to actually do this business analysis. I want to share with you how you will use then that data and those documents that you will get so that you can draft an initial letter of intent. I'm going to also provide you with why you're going to be coming up with certain questions and how you'll actually generate those questions. I think that's another key part of people where people get scared is that it's okay, I got this document. Now what do I do? What am I looking at? What do I ask? So I'm going to help you consistently be able to look at these documents and come up with some questions that you will ask in every business. And then I will, at the end of this, give you the framework in making an actual fair offer, because that's the whole point of you looking at a business for you to then decide whether or not this is a business you want to buy and what the heck is a fair offer to present to a seller. So I'm going to break this down in the next 40, 50 minutes here, and we will spend time on each topic. I will also share a lot of my experience so that you guys understand the examples where this is coming from. And then, like I said, at the end of it, I will answer any of the questions that you have based off of what will be shared today. So, a little bit about me. Okay, first, and of course, a disclaimer. But this past year, I've underwritten over 50 businesses. And in that process, I've really come up with a very simple framework and idea in which you will be able to use again and again for every other business that you look at. not only has that happened in this past year, but this has been a part of my own internal operations of my other businesses. We review our P&L statements every quarter, and we will just go line by line and determine whether or not there are things that need to be improved, what needs to get removed, or what has been implemented and needs to be continued to maintain. So for the last 10 years in all of my businesses, have been doing this review, underwriting, business analysis. And I've now just taken that and those frameworks and now have applied it to my investigation when I'm looking into buying a business. So I know for a fact that this is definitely going to work for you, especially with the way that I'm breaking it down. But of course, this is for your education purpose only. You will definitely need to have a part of your team, some experts to help you just really finalize some of these details. You'll need a lawyer involved in this case. You'll need an accountant or a tax strategist in this case. You'll need to even have some professions come in to do part of your due diligence, especially when you don't know certain areas. So just keep that in mind that there definitely will need to be some legal professionals in your business analysis that'll eventually come into play when you really start getting down to the finish line. I really am sharing this from what I've been doing in my own businesses and what I've been doing this past year, looking at businesses. And I really feel that what I've been doing is something that can be replicated by everyone here today. The purpose of you doing this is to become a quote unquote underwriter. And I know for a fact that you'll be able to leave here today feeling confident that you can do this process. But there are three very important areas that you need to understand about this process. And number one, like in anything that we do, is going to be your mindset going into this. This is extremely important that you come at this with discretion and you've got some emotional regulation into getting to this because it can be very exciting. And so the point is that you need to just suppress that excitement and go at it, what I would describe like a doctor. Okay. So a doctor is going to tend to each of their patients with discretion to each different case and scenario that for the reason why they're there. There's no emotion behind, or at least they should not have emotion behind their patient's case because it can affect the way that they are treating them. So you will do this the same. Each business that you will look at will need you to have this emotional regulation so that you're not just buying a business because you like it. Okay. Like that's not the reason why you're going to go into this process. You will need to have self-control. That's going to be very important where you don't get ahead of yourself. You don't try to rush this process. Something to just keep in mind is that time is in your favor. Okay. Yes, we want to buy a business in the next 12 months. That's very exciting to do. Absolutely doable, but definitely have the self-control and know that it is in your best interest to make sure that you take time for this process and you don't rush scenarios that should not be rushed. Even something I read once that I think is going to be applicable, not that I think it is applicable for this situation, is that a deadline isn't really a deadline. It's like a marker that we need to understand to keep us within confines. But how many of us have had deadlines get pushed back? How many of us have asked for extensions? As some of us here are experts in real estate, we've done multiple deals. It's not something that we have to be very strict about, and not anything that needs to control the outcome or the best outcome for us in this case. And then you must understand, and this is for people who get a little squirrely when it comes to the idea of negotiation. The moment you decide that you are interested in a business is when negotiation begins. That is when your regulation of your emotions needs to kick in. That's when your self-control needs to kick in, because now from here on out, the whole goal is for you to gather information so that you can ultimately make the best decision. And with gathering information is part of what's going to help you negotiate the best and fair offer for a business. Once you have that mindset and understand that you need to come at this with a regulated pace, then you need to ask for the right documents. Now, this can be the most scariest part about it, but yet it is the most simplest thing to do. All right. And for you to just say that you are interested in a business, you actually only need one piece of financial of a report and have a few questions get answered. So when you're interested in looking into a business, there is only one piece of a financial report that you need to just determine if you want to continue down with the process, and make sure that you get a few questions, okay? The questions that you need to get answered, and you don't need to, this will be shared with you. You'll have this recording, but I would write it down, is that if you don't get that one piece of financials, because the one piece of financial that you will absolutely need is a profit and loss statement or a P&L statement. All right. If you don't get that, at least something that you need to know is, what is their annual revenue? Now, I ask this because, or I say this because I had a business opportunity get presented to me from someone who wanted to know if I was interested in this business. Yes, I'm interested. Do you have a profit and loss statement? Is the very first piece of financials that I'm going to review. No, the person did not. Okay, well, what's the annual revenue? I don't know. Good question. Okay, what's their asking price? 6.5 million. And what is stopping them from considering a creative offer? I don't know. If they can't answer those three questions, if you can't get those three questions answered, then there is still more pieces of information that you need to gather before you move on to the next process. So for you to begin your underwriting process, you absolutely have to at least know these basic questions and then get your eyes on the official P&L report so that you can then move into the next phase of this underwriting process. If you can't get any of that in those questions answered, or that one piece of financial, you don't move on to the next phase because you're still missing some pieces that we'll go over later for you to help figure out what would be even an offer that I would make on this. Those pieces of information, those documents are going to help you get there. If you can't get that, number one, might not be a real opportunity. And number two means that there's still some work, especially if this is getting brought to you, that needs to get done first before you make an official yes or no. Now, if you find the business and you've been shared the profit and loss statement, and now you can see the revenue that it's making, and you know what the seller is asking for them to sell their business, and maybe you understand that they could be open to a creative offer, and you know some details why maybe that would stop them, you're going to move on to this process that I've created, that I've replicated multiple times over and over again. I call it the log to logo process, and you will repeat that at least 3 to many times after. And it's super simple, but it's really important that you understand that the process, the moment you decide to look into a business, the process of you following the log to logo method does not stop until the deal is sold. And this process will help you. The reason why I say is that it doesn't stop until the deal is sold is because you literally have until the final last moment to decide if this is going to be a business you buy, yes or no. And that is going to be going on in your head this entire time while you go follow this process. It doesn't stop. You need to make sure and consider and check all the boxes and ask all the questions and review and revisit continually multiple times because this is a very big decision. It's not something to really make light of, although I really want you to understand that the process can be simple. It's still a very big, important decision that you're about to make. And it's something that you cannot just check a couple boxes off and then move forward with unless you've verified multiple times, checked twice, 3 times, so that you can feel confident when you take over this business. Right now, you all understand that now moving into this next phase of becoming an underwriter, you need to make sure that you approach this with some emotional intelligence. It's not that you like a business, it's that you're interested in the business. You're not going to rush any phase of this process. The negotiation began the moment you shared interest with the broker, the seller, even with yourself. You at very first only need to look over the profit and loss statement. And if you don't have that at first, at least at first glance, what is their asking price? What do they say that they're doing in an annual revenue? And would this seller be open to a creative offer? I say that because in your LOI, that's something that I'm going to share with you to do. I am a big believer in buying businesses creatively, as some of us here already know. And then once you have at least that basic information, you will then move on to the next process that I'll break down and share with you that you will do over and over again. Okay. So our next process after this is that you must start with the right documents. You can get from a interested to a yes. Once you get to a yes, before you make a letter of intent, you need to at least have some of these documents. Okay. And I go back to the doctor analogy because I really want you to treat this like it's an intensive care unit, because these are critical documents for you to understand and do the initial underwriting process. There are 2 underwriting processes that you will go through. You will go through the initial, and then you will dive deeper into the underwriting process once you've gathered now even more information after you've decided if you are interested in buying this business. So that gentleman that I told you that brought me this business or this business opportunity, he first needs to even get me those basic questions first before I even take it to, okay, yes, I'm going to send the letter of intent. And if I get that basic information and I move into my letter of intent phase, this is part of my initial underwriting. Okay, I understand his asking price. Yes, I looked at his P&L. All right, he may or may not be open to creative financing. Great, no problem. All right, I'm going to put together an LOI based on receiving some or all of these documents. So this is a critical moment, because even at this part of this underwriting phase is when you can decide whether or not you're going to continue going further down buying this business path or not. The four right documents you absolutely need for your initial underwriting is the profit and loss statement. That's always going to be number one. It's always going to be number one because it's going to show you your revenue. It's going to show you the expenses. You don't necessarily need all of the years mentioned, but at bare minimum, if you could at least get the last 2 years, some businesses are not as prepared. So if you can even just look at the last 6 to 12 months of this statement, it's going to give you eyes into how this business is operating, what is bringing in the income, where they're spending their money. Are they being efficient with where their money is going? Can you, and we'll break this down, but can you highlight certain things that stand out to you like an anomaly? I need you to understand part of the profit and loss statement is that this should absolutely be a proper financial statement. I am not talking something in Excel that gets sent over. I'm not talking any of the marketing material. They can share this with you, but understand that there still will be a deeper underwriting process that will absolutely require them to share these official statements. The other document that you will want to review are the tax returns. Why do we want to look at the tax returns? Because it's going to verify what their profit and loss statement is showing as far as its financial health. It will also show you what the owner's compensation is. For the most part, you're not going to see that on a P&L. You're not going to see what the owner gets paid on your P&L. You'll see what the employees get paid as far as payroll, but you will not see an owner's compensation come out of that because they are going to then share in on the profit after expenses are done. And that is usually done on the tax returns. You'll also see if there are any hidden liabilities that maybe they didn't share. Maybe there are some back taxes. Maybe there were some penalties that are not on the profit and loss statement, but are then going to show up on the official tax returns that they're going to claim for this business. It'll also help you, or at least help your accountant, especially if you're not fully financially literate in the space, but at least evaluate how they are filing their taxes to see if there are any advantages you can take when you then buy the business. Something to keep in mind about tax returns is that you must make sure it has the business's name on the tax returns. I've been shared documents that have the owner's name, which is their personal tax returns. And you don't need to see their personal tax returns. You need to see the business tax returns. So just keep that in mind when you're asking for these documents, is that you make sure it has the business's name. Another red flag is that if there are no tax returns shared, it could mean that they're not up to date on their taxes. So that could be a liability that you may take on, especially if you're buying the LLC. So if you buy the existing business's LLC, then you are taking on its liability for all the previous years, which is why it's always recommended that when you buy a business, you create a new LLC and then you start from scratch. The problem, though, there is a con to doing that, is that you then now can refresh, not that you can, it happens, is that you refresh the lifespan. So now this business that was been in business for the last 15, 20, 25 years, when you implement a new LLC, does not have that seasoning of that previous business. And that could stop you from getting any new loans on the business. Some loans will want to at least see, they'll definitely want to see at least 2 years tax returns that you will not have when you start a new LLC to buy the business. Another right document to get is either the balance sheet or bank statements. I love just even starting with bank statements first because it then gives you clear eyes into what's coming into that business and then what's going out of that business. However, the balance sheet is going to identify the assets that the business has and its liabilities. And so that will help you determine what's sitting in the bank, the building's worth, any other assets that may come with the sale of the property versus the liabilities that they may have, which could be loans. And that will, at the bottom line, help you determine what the actual net worth is of this individual for owning this business. The last business that I just looked at, which happened to be an RV park, he is sitting at a negative 200,000 net worth because he's got more liabilities than he does in his assets. He doesn't have a lot sitting in his bank account. The buildings just don't help bring up the variance between its assets and the liabilities. It will also help you reveal like the capital structure where the money is sitting, and then consider something to also consider as far as when you see assets, if you're going to buy a car with a business, you have to consider the age and condition of that asset, because maybe this is a 20-year-old car with 200,000 miles on it. And although it's an asset, it may end up being a liability in the next year or two when the thing goes kaput. So just keep that in mind when you're dissecting a balance sheet and you're looking at the assets. You want to be very clear about what the assets are, what its liabilities are, and determine their maturity dates to see if whether or not this is something that you will end up having to replace and it becoming a liability, or it truly is an asset that you're buying that will be a net positive for you. Now, these are the 3 that you will absolutely need for your initial underwriting process so that you can submit an LO. The loan statement is going to be in a scenario where you take over an existing mortgage or existing loan that is on a business. There have been, in a lot of cases that I've looked at, is that a lot of businesses actually do have loans on them through SBA. There's I think there was one during COVID. Some people have lines of credit that they've ended up taking out. And that is most of the time, that's the reason why they want to receive a cash buyout, is they want to end up paying off that loan and then just moving on from the business. But there are cases, and one that I just have under LOI, where I would take over its existing loan. And in order for me to do that's something that then also needs to be verified. You're not just going to take somebody's word. You've got a mortgage on it. That sounds great. You want to at least look at the last previous month of the loan statement so that you can verify the monthly payment, because that might not be on the P&Ls. You want to at least indicate what kind of interest rate that they have. Is it something that's fixed? Is it something that's variable and it's going to change? So that's another reason why you want to look at the loan statement. You want to know when its maturity date is. How long do you have with this loan? With the LOI accepted, the maturity date is in 2026. So I only have this loan for 2 years. And that's something to determine whether or not that's going to sit in a pro or a con. Yeah, it's cool that I'm taking over sub 2, but it really doesn't have a lot of length for time for me to be able to stabilize the business and get to a profitable place. I only have 2 years to turn something around that's got a really high outstanding balance. So that's something that you will need to also confirm is what is the balance? What are you going to be responsible for paying off when this loan is due? And then number one is that you will be the one to make the payments on that loan. You're not going to pay the seller and the seller's going to pay the loan. You are going to set up a direct payment with the loan originator so that you can make sure the loan is actually getting paid. And that could be set up with you maybe logging into their portal, or it could be set up with making direct payments from now your bank account. You also need to be a little bit tricky in this space here when taking over an existing mortgage because there is the due on sale clause, and the same thing can happen in the commercial space as it does a lot of the times in residential. So these are the absolute right documents that you need to have for your initial underwriting process. Remember, there are two underwriting processes that you will go through. The first one is for you to at least get to a fair offer for your LOI. Your letter of intent is going to and may be different for when you finally go hard on that and take it under contract. But your LOI part of it is going to be where you will at least get these first. A lot of these things can be at your discretion. I'm just going to really emphasize the fact why you want to at least get these minimums, because you really want to have at least a good idea of the operations of this business based on these documents. Just keep that in mind. I just remembered something that I thought I wrote, but I guess it went away. There was a phrase that actually was very important to me to share with you, which is Susie Orman. I don't know if you guys are familiar with Susie Orman, but she was a little bit of a TV personality who would share with everyday citizens on financial education. And her quote, she's quoted that you don't need to understand financials. You just need to have the right documents. So that was supposed to be my segue into getting the right documents. I don't know what happened. It was not there anymore. But that's just also the ammo that I want to give you guys so that you understand that these are the documents you need for this like scary process of underwriting. And you don't need to necessarily have some full-on background or be on Wall Street to look into a business and come up with an evaluation. You just need to understand the documents that you need to receive and at least understand some of the basics of what you're looking at. And that I will definitely share with you so that you understand it really isn't as scary as it sounds. So once you have these right documents, this is the process that I've created, and it's my log for when I find a business. So when you find a business, you're going to do these 3 steps. Number 1, you will list the pros and cons of this business. I know, sounds super elementary, but it really is for the purpose of you being able to articulate this to others, not only to yourself as to why you want to be interested in this business, maybe why you want to purchase it to this business, but maybe you'll have partners that need to understand why this business and what are some of the negatives that you'll need to overcome. Maybe you'll need to pitch this to potential private money lenders, and you need to know why this is a good business and some of its downfalls that you are going to overcome. You need to be able to do both. You can't just share the great things about the business. You've got to understand that there will be negatives that you need to highlight and know about this particular business. And this is something that you can come up with in any business, in any type of business. I really want to encourage that you can yourself drum up some pros and cons of any type of business. You don't need to be a super professional in one particular space. A business is a business, period. It's going to have certain elements that may be different than others, but that is where you'll eventually move into the next phase and originate your own questions that you'll need, that you will get answered about it. You don't need to be scared that you don't know what is in this business. You'll end up finding that out. Trust me. And then from there is when you can figure out, after you do your log, if this is going to be a business that you buy. But get here first, which is why you're doing the log before you get to your logo, because you need to determine this stuff. And you're going to list all the reasons why, and then all the reasons why not. And you will need to determine the main problem or improvement about your business so that you can come up with a hypothesis about this business. And what you're going to do is you want to prove this hypothesis wrong. Okay, so here's my example. So I was looking at a laundromat, all right? And a couple of my pros. It's in Miami. There were lots of residences around it, lots of apartments around this laundromat. It's been a laundromat for the last 15 years, which is a good thing. Not that it's like a new business. It had on its with the right documents that I looked at, it had high cash flow. It had an additional service. So something to keep in mind when you're looking at laundromats is, what type of service does this laundromat provide? For the most part, at its most basic form, it's just got washers and dryers, and people can come in and wash their clothes. But a next level to that is the wash and fold service, where people will come in, drop off their clothes. The business washes it, dries it, folds it up nice and neat for them, and they just come back in to pick up their clean, folded clothes. And then an even next level to that is adding an element of dry cleaning. And that could be with laundromat business, or that can be outsourced. So there are 3 streams of income that you can get from a laundromat business, and that this particular business that I was looking at had all 3 of them. And the biggest business, the biggest service, the biggest income generating was from the wash and fold service. It did have room for price improvement, so that's another plus to think of. It had little mechanics to it, and there's not a lot going on here. This is not like physically labor intensive. It is like they drop off their bag, people throw them in the washer, throw them in the dryer, and then fold it up. If anything, the most labor intensive is you're on your feet for hours of a day. The dry cleaning was outsourced. This is something to keep in mind when looking at that type of business, is that the dry cleaning does have some sensitivity to it, because people are bringing in high-end clothes, very specific material that needs to be washed a certain way. And if the laundromat you're buying actually does that in-house, now you've got to make sure that the people that are running that, they understand how to do that. You can't just add dry cleaning to your business, because that you definitely need to be educated in that space. But if you can outsource it, which is what this business had, it's a good thing. And the profits were shared 50-50. So the laundromat that I was looking into didn't take on that liability, didn't have to know how to wash those clothes. It was outsourced to the professionals. The professionals did it and then turned it back. And then 50% of whatever that price was for it got shared with the business. And it was a super clean facility. It was in a really nice plaza. Sorry, I should stop sharing my screen about this part. It was in a really nice plaza. So that was all of my pros about my business, about that business. But here were some cons, okay? And this is really important that you write down cons. That's why you need to, again, emotional regulation here. Don't get excited about the pluses, because your job is to overcome the negatives. It was a lease. This laundromat did not come with real estate. So the lease now needs to be reviewed. What are the specifics that this laundromat business is now having to agree to that somebody else controls? A lease is also on an expiration date. So if it's got 5 years to it, 7 years to it, 3 years to it, the business is at a risk of having their lease go up because it's not up to you. It's up to the landlord. So that's a negative. We ended up finding out very late, like 2 days before closing, that we were going to lose the management we had, which is why I emphasize to you, don't get stuck on deadlines. This falls into my con. It was a pro taking over the business with the existing employees, but then immediately turned into a con 2 days before closing when the manager said they were not going to stay with us for a long period of time. It would only give us like two weeks, which is not now. That just changed everything because that was a very heavy point that we were relying on, especially because we are not buying jobs. So no, it is not going to be an option for you to now, or option for me in this case, to move from Naples to Miami to go be in this business to manage it. And even if I did that for a short period of time, I still needed to be quick about finding a reliable manager, which now puts me at risk when taking over this business. So don't get caught up on the deadline like you need to close. Oh my God, closing is 2 days away. It's, oh, closing is 2 days away. And now that's going to change up everything for me. And I'm going to have to ask for an extension because that's not going to work. There was cash liability. So in laundromats and in any other business, how much of it is coming from credit cards and how much of it is coming from cash? If I'm not going to be there, I'm going to have to now put that responsibility in somebody I really don't know about. And so there's liability there to with the cash, the coins for that business. The other negative that was a pro is the fact that it is heavily wash and fold. What happens if I lose the customer base? What happens if another COVID shows up and they shut down that type of business? This is just something that you have to think about. We'd have to put in completely new management. The rent was very high. The rent, when you looked at its expense on the P&L, every single month was a different amount. So this is something that I'm going to teach you about how you need to go line by line, month by month, to say, all right, if rent's supposed to be $3,000, then it better be $3,000 every single month. But if I look at it this month and it's 3,100, and then this is 4,500, and then this is 60 set, what's going on here? This is what's then going to start the O, which is where your calibrated questions are going to come from when you're looking at these documents. So high rent was an issue, older machines, a couple of them were broken, the dry cleaning was outsourced. I need you all to understand too, is that when you're working with different vendors, sometimes when they come in with a new owner, they end up stop doing business with now your new business for a number of reasons. Could be maybe they were offering this past owner the cheapest pricing and they've been looking for a way out. And the moment they knew a new owner was coming in, they can now finally charge their market rate, or it's finally their opportunity just to be done with that business because they've always wanted to just get out of that and move on to something else. So the dry cleaning is a risk with having it being outsourced, because is this person going to continue to do business with you? And the fact that this was a cash deal based on its official reports being negative. So they were showing negative P&Ls officially. And then they had a second group of books that were positive, but that really doesn't work in your favor when they want an all cash deal, because they're really getting the best of both worlds when truly their real financials don't actually show it as a profitable business. So these were all of my pros and cons. This is something that you too will have to do when you are doing this process of listing out these reasons why to buy the business and the reasons why not. And the biggest problem of all was this last part that I just shared with you, with the fact that she had two separate books. On one, her internal book showed high cash flow. But yet her official reports to the government showed negative. So there is a big problem with that. And the main point, the hypothesis, the one thing that I need to prove wrong is the fact that she doesn't actually do what she's showing on her internal books. That's what I'm trying to prove wrong. I'm trying to prove that what she's showing me over here isn't actually the case. And what is the case is the fact that she's a negative business that doesn't actually do the cash flow that she's trying to tell me. And so that's the one hypothesis that I went into with this business is I need to prove the fact that I'm right, that she's wrong in showing this cash flow. And so I'll tell you what ended up happening with just me creating that one hypothesis. As another example of a hypothesis, this other business that I just looked at that I went up to in Missouri, the hypothesis that I need to prove wrong is the business owner was telling me that the only improvement that needs to be done at this business, the only thing that this business needs is better marketing. So now I go, okay, so that's the main thing about this business is that it only needs marketing. That would be a pro. It only needs marketing because it's got cabins and it's got art sites and it's got a pool and games and it's got all these great things. And so the only thing that needs to happen is the marketing. And so I went into that with trying to prove the fact that no, it doesn't only just need marketing. I'm trying to prove it wrong because if I prove it right, then great. Yes, it only needs marketing. If I proved my problem wrong with the coin laundry, yes, she actually does do the cash that she's telling me on her other books, then great. I can continue moving on with this purpose, but you will need to figure out what that main problem is, that one improvement that needs to be done wrong so that you can determine again, is this something that I'm going to continue to move forward with or not? Because if she didn't do the cash that she was showing me, and she truly is a negative business, things are going to change. If the truth is, no, you don't just need marketing, you need this and this. And so now things will start to change. So that is something to keep in mind when you're going into this and to have that, again, emotional regulation behind the fact that it's very exciting. A laundromat, an RV park, a storage unit. This new business is so exciting. Oh my God, all this cash flow. But you need to control that and understand that you're going at this very calculated and you will come up with calibrated questions. Okay. You need to be super intentional about your questions because remember, negotiation started the moment you became interested in this business. And the whole point about you starting negotiations is to gather information and determine a behavior influence, which means like you need to determine if this person's going to be able to accept your offer or not based on all the information that you gather. And you're going to do that by asking very specific questions. So from here on out, when you look at a business, you are going to do these things. You will not ask questions like, can you sell on seller financing? Is that the only thing that needs to get done in this business? Are you going to raise rates? Do you only offer snow cones during the winter time? Does this business do great during the summer? These are like very basic questions that are not going to incite real answers. Okay. You don't want questions that are just going to get you to, yes, I am going to do that. Oh yeah, yes, yeah, we do great. We do great during the summer. No, we're not going to raise the pricing of that. That doesn't help you understand what's really going on with the business. And so you will now, when you are talking to a seller, when you are talking to a broker, you will ask calibrated questions that start with what, why, and how. Okay, so some questions that you can ask with what, why, and how. What about this is important to you? How can I make this better for you? How would you like me to proceed? What is it that brought us into this situation? How can we solve this problem? See how these questions like what and how are going to now incite me to be like, how can we solve this problem? I need to sell by this date. I would like to close with this much amount of money. I want to keep this. I want to keep the name. I want you to keep this person so that then you can then open up the floodgates to why do you want me to keep the name? Is that why do you want me to keep the name for any specific reason? This is going to then open up other calibrated questions so that you can really get to the bottom of what's going on behind the scenes that you will not get just by looking at some marketing material, looking at an Excel sheet, just asking some couple of questions. You're going to want to dive deep into this. Again, taking your time, the self-control of taking your time, not feeling rushed about this, and avoid questions that only give you yes and no. So it says here that the who, the where, and the when will get the other party to share a fact and nothing else. So who runs the place? Melinda, she does. Where do you have parties? Over there in the rec house. When does that happen? Oh, that happens between April and October. And that's it. It's just a fact. It doesn't open up the floodgate. What is the process behind your check-in? How do you do the dry and fold? They come in, they drop off their stuff right here. We weigh it. We come over to the computer. We enter in their number. It's going to print out a receipt. We hand it to them to the receipt. And then we're going to take it over here. We're going to put a sticker on this machine and that machine. And we use different colors for that. And then after that, we're going to move it over the dryers and we move those stickers back over there. And then we fold it up just like this, real nice and neat. We put 3 dryer sheets in this, and then we're going to tighten it up and we put it over here in the corner. That is what is going to help me understand, number one, how to do this service, what's going on here, and what I can improve on when I take over. But if you just ask, who does the dry and fold? Oh, she does and he does. Okay. Oh, where do you put the bags when they come in? Oh, right there in the corner. That's not going to elicit further information for you. And you're going to want to ask these very early on and as often as you need to. The reason why I said this process repeats itself over and over again, because you will find things that you'll need to ask another question for, and another question for, and another question for. You do not stop this because, again, this is an important decision. This is a big play. And you do need to make a good decision at the end of the day into a good business. You're not buying a job. You're not buying problems. So in order for you to not do those things, you need to get as much information as you can out of it with the self-control of you not feeling like you are on a time limit or trying to meet a deadline. What you're trying to do is buy a good business and not make a bad decision. And you will use the documents to help you with these calibrated questions. For example, when I shared with you that the lease payment, when I saw on the financial report every single month, I'm looking at the rent, change, all different types of numbers. There was nothing straight about it. What is making this lease payment change every single month? She's on a prorated rate. So in the lease payment is her expense for the lights for the plaza, for the electricity for the plaza, and for the signage. And so the electricity is going to fluctuate. The light's going to fluctuate. And so that is what is added on to the lease payment, and why we see a lease payment that changes every single month, because it's not going to be the same. That is what you want to hear. That is the type of question that you're going to look at when you, again, dissect this line by line and come up with questions. That is why you're going to ask for these documents before, is because you will start there. You'll start on the P&L and you'll look at the income that comes through, the expenses that go through, and you will come up with these calibrated questions so that you can turn it over to the seller, the broker, somebody who handles this information, so that you can get more information about what's going on. And then when you find this business, I don't care if you are down the street or live out of state, you will go see this business. These are must. Why are you interested in this business? Why would you not be interested in this business? What are you going to find out about it? And how does this business get done? And then you're going to go see with your own eyes. Unless you got some asset manager and you're some big time, until that point, this will be you. This will be you. Unless you've got a partner, maybe that you're very comfortable with and you feel strong that they're going to make good decisions. If you don't, this will be you, because you want to get a look at the area. You want to go see the building conditions yourself. You want to look at any of the other assets, the tractor, the golf cart, the car. You want to meet the employees. Do you get good feelings from them? Are they just based off of you being there and the time frame that you were there? Were they working? Were they doing something? Were they away? Were they quiet? What were they doing? You also want to meet the seller. It's very important. This is an exchange of hands. This is a transaction between two people. Unless this is some super mega conglomerate where this business transaction doesn't happen between two individuals, then I would highly suggest that you introduce yourself to the seller. It could also be helpful when you continue going through your log process to determine how maybe to present the next offer based off what you then go see. You're not just going to keep it to go seeing the property, to the business. You need to go look around, verify that the traffic of people is there, verify that the attractions that when you Google mapped it looks as what it's described online. Sometimes websites look way better than what the business actually looks like in person. And then go check out other business types. Go walk in their store, go shop them. What does it look like for them? What could you be like? What do you have to get to with your local competitors in the area? When I went to Missouri, so at first, looking at Google Maps is not a bad thing, because that's part of your first initial underwriting process. Are you interested in this business? What's around this business? What does it look like? Okay, the laundromat that was actually one of my first questions, was because the way that it was advertised said Miami. And for someone who lives in Miami, who's lived in Miami before, I was like, where in Miami? Because that's a really big city. And we can be in like great areas or we could be in not some great areas. And so where is this? And so that was my very first thing. Where in Miami? And it ended up being in a subdivision called Doral. And Doral was in a very heavy residential place. I could be in Miami, I could be in South Beach. That's travelers. Like, that's short term. Are people really going in to wash their laundry over in South Beach? Probably not. Not as much as they probably would in the residential area. When I went to the Missouri, one of the really cool things that was on the list was this Jesse James Museum. I was like, oh, this is so cool. I'm going to go to this Jesse James Museum. When I showed up, it was closed and it did not look like a real museum. Okay. So it's so important. If I was to just look at that first glance, zoomed in on some Google Maps and was like, oh, it's got the Jesse James Museum right there, and it's got this wild encounter over here. And the wild encounter, when I talked to the owner of the place, he was like, don't go to that one, because that one, the tiger is like walking on his heels. Like, these are the reasons why it's so important for you to go see. And you will log this process. You will put pen to paper, write this down, because you'll need your pros and cons when you need to articulate this to somebody else. And you will need to ask very specific questions that are going to help you gather all the information that you need to take over this business. We're not starting a business from scratch. We are taking over a business. And so it's very important that, especially if it's in a business that you don't necessarily know well, ask all the questions. Don't stop. Every time a new piece of information comes up, it's the what and the how does this get done. Forget the simple questions of the can, the is, the are, the do, the does, simple ones that don't really just bring out a lot more of an elaborative reasoning too. And then you will go see this. I am ordering you. You will go see this business. Okay. Now that you've done those things really quick before you go to that process, let's go back for a sec. Oh, I think I might have skipped. List your pros and cons. Originated your calibrated questions. You went to go see the business. You will now, in that time, start your initial underwriting process, or you've started your initial underwriting process. So by asking for the right questions, by beginning your log, you have started the initial underwriting process. It doesn't sound very scary. I think the scariest thing that I could have shared with you is the fact that you need to ask for a P&L. But other than that, you're jotting down why you would buy it, why you wouldn't, what's the thing that I need to prove wrong about this business so that I can figure out if that's something that can be accomplished or not, if that's true or not. Here's all my questions that I need to find out about this business. And then I'm going to go drive, I'm going to go fly, I'm going to go see this business. I'm going to go take a look around. I'm going to really get a sense for the business by just showing up. And that right there, those things have already started your underwriting process. You've become an underwriter at that point. And the only thing, they're highlighted in black, that you need to start that process is get the P&L. It doesn't need to be the last 2 years. It doesn't need to be the last 3 years. If just to begin this process, just get your eyes on at least the last 6 to 12 months. And I say 6 to 12 months because if you're in a January, February, beginning of the year, come next year, you're not talking about the 1 month of a P&L. You're literally talking, let me see at least the last 6 to 12 months of a P&L statement. Figure out what it is that you need to find out to be wrong. I saw the true and I'm like, is that what I wanted to say? Find out what it is that you are set in to go figure out to be right or wrong. What is it that you're looking to improve? What is the problem that you're looking to fix? Is that going to be true or not? Jot down your questions based off of this P&L that I will share at some point, especially if you have some time, and then go see the business. And you've started your initial underwriting process right there. Then in your initial underwriting process, the thing that seals the deal, the thing that moves you forward into your next phase is you submitting a letter of intent. Now, that's something that I did not share, that I am going to share, that I did not post about, but I will share my letter of intent template. It does come from a lawyer. It does have legal aspects to it. You may need to make sure state by state if everything is included or can be included based on your state. I'm in Florida, and so this is a Florida LOI template, but definitely something that can be used. You may need to add a sentence or two depending on the state that you're in. I don't really know. Certainly ask a lawyer or Google it. And then in your letter of intent, you will present 2 offers. Now we will get to how you're going to come up with an offer. But in your letter of intent, you will present 2 offers. The first offer will always be the cash offer. And the second offer will always be a creative offer. I'm going to instill in your brain right now that you, even if they say, no, I am not interested, you will still present 2 offers. I'll tell you why. Because as you continue to go through your log and repeat that process over and over, because you'll likely go see this business multiple times, you'll come up with other questions, you'll move things from the pro to the con, from the con to the pro. As you continue to do that, sometimes, and a lot of times, the cash offer isn't going to be the offer that gets the deal done. I also say that because that did actually happen to me when I purchased my RV park. I purchased it. I had asked if the seller would be open to creative financing. Said, I don't know what that would look like. I said, no worries. I will present that offer to you. I presented the two offers. I shared them with the broker. I told them, broke it down. We discussed it over the phone. He said, all right, I'm going to share that with the seller. He shared it with the seller, came back to me to tell me that the accountant, the lawyer himself were all telling the seller, you'd be dumb if you didn't take this creative offer. But the seller was very adamant about how he needed the cash. He had thought about it, and then something happened to him on property. And he was like, yeah, see, that's the reason why I just need to get the deal done. 3 days before closing, I lost the funding that I had to close on this RV park. I had gone through this whole process. I had spent all this time there. The lender shook my hand, showed up, shook my hand, told me we would get the deal done. And then 3 days before closing, because I was bringing in a second lien position, told me they weren't going to do the deal. And I lost $1.3 million 3 days before closing because that was the cash that was going to be that the seller was going to get for the deal, for the property, for the business. After 2 extensions, I could not find a lender fast enough. A lot of the lenders, they wanted 30 days, 45 more days so that they could do their own due diligence. This seller wanted to close. And so I then reverted back to my cash offer and I said, if you want to get this deal done, there is this other offer that we talked about. And that is how we got the deal done. And for this laundromat, that was almost how we got the deal done. Always give yourself options. You want to give that option to the seller. You will put that in an LOI. You will send them in 2 separate letters. One letter will be for the cash. One letter will be for the creative offer. You will always present 2, even if they tell you no. If they tell you no, no problem. I'm still going to just present this to you. You don't have to take it. I understand you're more interested in the cash offer, but I'm still just going to put it out there. And in your letter of intent, one very important thing that most people don't understand why they are putting a letter of intent together is because it is your intent to buy if you are presented with the right documents that I'm telling you that you need for your deeper underwriting process. And that is going to require even more documents than what I shared with you. That is also something that I'm going to send to you. It's a due diligence checklist. It literally has everything under the sun could be sent to you for this deeper underwriting process. But that is going to be in the letter of intent. You're going to say, I am going to buy this business if I can review these items by this date. And you must have this LOI signed. It's not enough for you just to present the offers and then say, oh, that sounds great. Yeah, I like that one. No, that's great. You like that one? Send it over to me. Send it over to me signed. And then you have a deadline in which these items need to be sent to you. Because something that sellers like to do is they like to wait to the last minute in which your LOI will expire, because you'll have an expiration date as to how long your letter of intent is in place before you finally make that official decision to move forward or not. And so if you don't have a date in which to review these items, they will literally wait for the day before and then expect you to make the decision in less than 24 hours as to whether or not you need to move forward. And that is not how you're going to send out letters of intent. You will send out letters of intent with a deadline, with the documents that you need to receive by a certain date, with the buffer time that you will give yourself to look this over, to review, to generate more calibrated questions so you can ask for more supporting documents to verify if this business is good. And that officially begins and starts the next period of your underwriting process. Okay. So remember, you will request and review the right documents and begin your log. All that you need to at least get an initial underwriting process started is 6 to 12 months of a P&L. You could look at our tax return, but it's not required for this process. You could look at the last 3 months bank statement or the year balance statement, the current year balance statement, but not required for this process. What is required as an official report is the P&L And then you will then determine some of these questions that need to be true in order for you to move forward. You'll have your questions that you then need to get answered that you will continue to ask the broker, the seller, anyone else involved. And you will definitely go schedule some time to go see the property. 100%. Based off of this is when you will put together offers, 2 offers, put them in 2 different templates, send it over, and you're waiting for it to get signed. And once it gets signed, the clock starts. All right, this is probably going to be the most intensive part of this presentation. I hope that I've really up until this point have made it super basic, but this is a part where people then also get stuck. One of the first phases of getting stuck is I've got this document, I'm interested in this business. Now what do I do? You need to look at it. Why would you buy it? Why wouldn't you buy it? Come up with some questions so you can get some further answers and then go see this property. And then based off of that, you're going to put together an offer. So then they do the first part. Oh, I love it. I love it. I saw the property. I got my questions answered. I'm interested in it. But what's the offer that I make? Okay. So more times than not, guys, you will likely not make an offer for the exact asking price of that seller. The seller definitely is delusional. I just want you guys to understand this. Like I was talking to you about this gentleman that brought me this business opportunity. It was an RV park, and it was only 30 pads, and the guy wanted it was actually a mobile home park, and the guy wanted $6.5 million for 30, I think it was 44 pads. I was like, dude, you got to be selling those pads at $2,500, $3,000 a month. And you probably better own all of those mobile homes, because $6.5 million for a 44 pad mobile home park just is not right. All right. So when you put together an offer based off of this P&L, all right, another thing to actually preface this is I do not care what a broker wants to share with you about their offering memorandum, okay, or whatever marketing material they want to share that they put together. I don't care. I want you not to care. I really need you to understand the thing you care most about is actually looking at those reports. And for the people that can't share more than that marketing material when you ask for it, that's when you know this is not a real seller. This is not a real seller, or this is not a business that's going to sell at the price that this person is asking for, because they don't have these things together. Those are your cues. That's nice. Thanks for sending me that marketing material, but that is not what I need to see in order for me to make an offer. That's beautiful. It's wonderful, but no. Okay. First thing these are things that you should include and consider. Okay. You're going to consider, when you look at the P&L, at the net operating income, the NOI at the bottom, can the LOI support the debt for that purchase price first and foremost? So if the guy wants $6.5 million, remember I told you one of the questions is what is your annual revenue? Heck, man, what are you doing in sales? Because geez, if you want $6.5 million, I mean, that business better be doing like $3, $4, $5 million in sales. Because how do you expect me to afford a $6.5 million purchase price if your income after your expenses can't cover the bill? I have not heard back from that person, by the way. That's how I know that's not real. And that's why you will never say no to an opportunity, is you will now know the questions that you need to ask first so that they can filter themselves out, as opposed to you filtering yourself out of an opportunity. You will no longer say no to an opportunity. You will say yes if they have a P&L. Yes if they maybe open a creative finance. If they've got this amount in sales, what's their asking price? Because now I need to determine at the end of the day, can that income support the asking price that they're asking for? So if they're doing 100,000 at the end of after their expenses, you've got $10,000 a month to work with to afford the debt. Another thing to consider in your offer is the real estate if it's included part of the sale. When you are buying a business, it, for the most part, will be an asset sale. It will not be a commercial real estate sale. But if it is commercial real estate, like an RV park, like a storage facility, these things that come with the land, then you will consider the value of that RV park, of that land, into your offer. So you'll take it in two parts. You'll look at the business and its financials and whether or not it's healthy enough to support the purchase price, as well as the land that you're getting that is also valuable to your business. You could improve on that land. You could add more to that land. So that's just something to consider as well in your offer. The next thing that you will do is you'll consider the due diligence that you've done, which is looking at that P&L, getting your questions answered, and going to see the property. Because my offer has now since changed going to see that RV park in Missouri. Yes, I'm under terms. I've got LOI accepted. I have great terms under that LOI. But after the due diligence that I've done and the questions that I've gotten answered and the more questions that I have, I don't think that those terms will be able to support purchasing the business at that price. And so that's why my log continues to keep going, is I will continue to repeat that process. So that's why it's important for you to go see the business, because that could change things. If you go see the business and it's got holes in the wall and it's got water stains on the roof, my friend, the original purchase price is if this building didn't need now these expenditures that I'm going to need to put into this business to improve it. It's not that price anymore. That would be if it was turnkey. So you're going to consider the offer after you've done some of those things. After you've gotten some questions answered, after you've gone to see the building and the property, after you have determined whether or not your pros outweigh your con and you've proven your hypothesis wrong or right, okay? When you've done those three things, one very important thing that most people do not talk about, okay, when they are making an offer, is that you will provide something with a fair multiple. Okay. I said this would probably dive a little bit deep. We're also going a little further into time, but bear with me. We're almost here. And this is something I just want to spend a little bit of time on, because this is part of putting together an offer. In our space, for a lot of us real estate investors, we hear two big fancy words: cap rate and EBITDA. I'm going to cancel those two out, because those two do not necessarily apply for the small businesses that we are looking to take over. Right now, the phase in which we are in, we are buying smaller market businesses. I'm not telling you to go look at a business that's 10 million, 20 million, 50 million. We're literally talking about a business that you could buy for 500,000, $1 million, $1.5 million, maybe $2 million. And those two fancy words, EBITDA and cap rate, do not necessarily apply to those business types. And I'm going to tell you why. So an EBITDA is only for businesses that have high cash flowing, larger businesses with money in the bank. We're talking multi-million-dollar businesses that is cash flowing millions of dollars a year and actually has money liquid in the bank account. We are not talking about that in the businesses that we are looking at. EBITDA literally strictly only applies to those types of businesses, because you are looking at how much that business is worth before some taxes and interest and depreciation and the amortization taken in place, which really don't affect a smaller business type, the ones that we're looking at. So scratch that out of your head. EBITDA, nope, not for this business. Second fancy word is the cap rate. I buy a business at 10 cap. What do you buy it at? Okay, no, We're not doing that. We're not doing that. Okay. Because the cap rate is flawed. The cap rate is used in cash deals because is using cash deals because the cap rate does not include the debt service that I am telling you about. When somebody likes to fancy off the cap rate and what the business is at, they're literally only talking about what the NOI brings in. That is it. That is literally the equation of figuring out the cap rate. The cap rate equals the net operating income divided by the property value. But the net operating income does not include how much it is going to cost to pay that monthly payment if you were taking out a loan. That is why it really only applies to cash deals that are not going to have the extra expense of paying principal interest. The cap rate should, if you want to think of a cap rate, the best way to do that is when you include other metrics like, okay, if this NOI is at 100,000, then I'm going to think of how I need to improve the net operating income so that I can afford this debt. And what are some market trends that are going to help me improve this cap rate? The cap rate is problematic because it ignores the growth potential there. It does not consider the financing. It overlooks the operating expenses that can vary when you take over. What if management goes away? What if there's some $100,000 manager on the books that's not going to go away? Well, if the $100,000 man, or that is going to go away, if the $100,000 manager goes away, now you just added more to your bottom line, and now the cap rate changes. The cap rate means nothing. I don't want you to go off a cap rate. What is the fair offer is based off of a multiple. You are buying a business at a multiple. And I highlighted the multiple in which you will be buying businesses at, because for the most part, you're not going to be looking at a business that's cash flowing to, or that the seller is earning $250,000, $750,000 at the end of the day, or $750,000 and $1 million. You are looking at business owners that are probably making 100 and on the high end, $250,000 at the end of the year. That's the most part. So you will be looking at buying a business with a 1.5 to 3x multiple right there. That's it. So what does the multiple mean? The multiple is going to be based off of the seller's discretionary earnings. What the seller is making net profit, what the seller is taking as a salary, what the seller is now not going to depreciate anymore because that's going to end up coming back to you, what the seller has taken out of the business to pay for it. Did they buy themselves a car? Are they paying health insurance out of this? Are they charging themselves consulting fees? What are they making discretionary? What in total? Because the profit's theirs after they've paid all expenses. And then from that profit, what kind of salary are they adding on top of that? What are they also then adding a part of the business are they taking away? And so the seller's discretionary earnings are going to include all of these things. And it becomes a negative. You're going to take away these things when certain things don't happen anymore. When you've got like a non-reoccurring item, when they've spent $10,000 on something that only happened once, when they're paying for their health insurance or their medical insurance or some one-off thing that they're paying out of the business expenses or any other adjustments that they've had. Because you'll put back that into the business. Because for the most part, I'm not going to take out health insurance from one of my businesses. I'm already doing that in another business. But in this new business that I'm buying, I'm not going to take out health insurance. I'm not buying a car out of this business. So that is then going to, you have to add that back into the earnings because they took that for themselves. And so when you've added those things, what this seller actually made was $210,000 in the year. And so you will take then what they earned and add or times the multiple. And again, like I said, 3x, 3.5x, this is the high end for some of these places. And just based off of that multiple, you've now gotten where your offer should be if there's no real estate involved. If there's real estate involved, that's where I'm saying you must include the value of the real estate as part of your offer so that you can make it a fair offer to the seller. If it is just buying a laundromat business with no real estate, then all that I'm looking at is her NOI, any salary that she took of it, and any other one-off expenses that are being charged that will no longer be charged when I take over. I come up with that over the course of the year. I give a fair multiple based off of the due diligence that I did. Is it nice facilities for the laundromat? There were three machines that were broken. That affects your offer. You're not going to make a full ask offer if you've now got to put in to the business to bring it up. That RV park in Missouri, great terms. But unfortunately, I did not prove my hypothesis wrong with the fact that all it needed was marketing. It needs marketing. It needs other activities to keep the business there. Part of the negative of that business is that it's got cabins. Sounds wonderful, right? It's got cabins. It's got 9 cabins. 7 of them are rustic. You know what rustic cabins are? They don't have water and they don't have a bathroom. So they don't even really produce sales when you look at the reports because nobody is renting a cabin really that doesn't have water and it doesn't have a bathroom. It sounds cool, but for the most part, that park does most of its sales at the RV sites. And guess what's at the RV sites? Only half of them are full hookups. So the other half are not even set up for full hookups. Another expense. So now offer will change. And so you will need to consider that for as far as your offer, but you're starting from a multiple. Your multiples moving forward will be at a 1.5 to 3x what the seller earns at the end of the year. What the seller earns includes that NOI income, its salary, and any other major expenses. And then do not discount the fact that you did your own due diligence and what needs to get put into that place to actually make it better. And make sure you absolutely account the debt service. Because remember, this is net profit. This net profit does not include how much it's going to cost you for any payment that you need to make to a private lender, to any loan. So you need to include that as well. Final part, wrapping up. I'm going to be super fast about this part. Once you put together that offer, okay, those 2 offers, sorry, really quick, your cash offers. Remember I told you one of them is going to be a creative offer. So your creative offer is usually a higher priced offer, a higher offer. The cash offer is literally going to be a lower price because you do want them to go with your creative offer. Your creative offer will hopefully include some money down, and then it may or may not have interest attached to whatever the seller is going to carry. There's a couple of ways to put together some offers. That's clearly not for this class, but at least you know where to start for your cash offers. That is what you will put in your LOI. You'll send it out. Once they sign that LOI is when your second part of your underwriting process starts. This is when you will do a deep dive into the full scope of the business. I'm going to share with you a due diligence checklist that's got everything covered from construction plans to warranties to permits, inspection reports. You will literally just send this in an email to the broker, to the seller. You'll say, I need these items. And you can say whatever items don't apply to you, just please skip it over and send to me what you got as you put them together. Do not have them wait until all of these documents are together. You want to make sure that you are continuing this process as they send them in. So please send in anything that you have now, and then everything that you get later, please send them in as you receive them. But you will literally send out this checklist that's got, I don't know, 100 items on this list that may or may not apply to this business. I sent this out to this RV park. They're like, we don't have an elevator. I'm like, okay, that doesn't apply to you, but you may look at a business that has an elevator. So you'll need to look at the inspection report for that elevator, the permits, the licenses. These are things that will be a part of this deeper underwriting process that get super scary when you start to move into this process, when really it's not even about the financials at this point. Now it's about proving that this is a legitimate permitted business. I was looking at a 68-acre RV park. Sounds wonderful. Got another creative offer. She had 30 sites. She was only permitted for 15. Lady, now this is going to change up my whole offer, because now I'm not buying a 30 pad RV park. I'm buying a 50 pad RV park. And that's where the offer needs to get placed, based off of that due diligence. And then if you don't have things to help me verify these things, that's also going to affect the offer. You don't got a warranty on that washer machine. How do I know how long that's going to last? What if that's a 15-year-old washing machine? It's going to break the moment I take over. You don't got maintenance logs to let me know how often these things are being cleaned and repaired and fixed and maintained. How do I know the longevity of these things? So all of this is going to come into play when you are in your LOI period and into this deeper underwriting process. You're going to go line by line and figure out, okay, insurance is only 6% of the income. Oh, 31% of the income coming through is going to cost of goods. Okay, man, almost 50% of my income is going to payroll after we pay for the costs that need to actually help the business run. What is it that I need to change here? How do I need to improve this business? All right, repairs and maintenance, that seems about average. Advertising, 4% seems good. But man, that payroll, this is where your calibrated questions come from, is being spent in payroll. Oh, we've got 3 people. 1 is a W-2, 2 are subcontractors. The 2 work between April and October. The person on W-2 is paid this amount, plus she gets free. The other two, they only get paid hourly and they only work from this time to this time. Perfect. That helps me understand how payroll is being broken down. And you'll spend your time. That's all really that this is asking the right questions and making sure that you can get these right materials. Because you know what this does? Number one, it puts you in the driver's seat. Because now if they want to sell this business and I want to sell this to this person, man, they want to look at this and they want to look at that. And these are certificates, these John. And now this falls into your hands when you can say, I couldn't verify this. I couldn't verify that. You didn't show this to me. That's going to affect my offer. I need to take into account the possibility of me needing to do these things. One other component really quick, just to highlight and emphasize this in RV parks specifically, you can be on city utilities, which you're not responsible for the maintenance of that. But for the most part, RV parks are on septic and well, which is the responsibility of the RV park to keep those septics and wells maintained. The RV park in Missouri has a lagoon. When I ask when the lagoon, actually I asked 2 questions. I asked the person that was there maintaining the park, I said, how often do you pump your septic? She said, we don't have septic. We have a lagoon. Oh, okay. I didn't know that. And I said, okay, when was the last time that actually got, or I said, how often, calibrated question, how often do you get that pumped? Oh, it's every year, every 2 years. Then now I need to verify this. She was the employee. Now I need to verify this by somebody officially in the business. So I asked the accounting department because I don't see that on the expense report. And I say, hey, how often do you pump the lagoon? She said the last time we did that was in 2022 and it was $15. Now, that was 2 years ago. The employee told me that it gets done 1 to 2 years. Here we are at the 2 year mark of me taking over this business, which means that this is going to be an expense I have to account for as my responsibility when I take this over. So you will not stop asking these questions. You will continue because it is your job to do this. And that is your job as an underwriter, is to get the right documents to prove what it is that you need to support so that you can make a fair offer to yourself and the seller. And then your deeper underwriting is your full market analysis. You're going to do research. It's like comping. You're not going to get like houses, okay? You will need to do this yourself. You will need to look at your competitors in those areas. That's why I told you to go to see those competitors. If you've never been in the city that you're buying this business in, go to that city's website, go to that county website, pull it up, look at the activities, look at the calendar. What are they doing? Are they an active city? You want to go to best.net, because bestplaces.net will give you a full breakdown of the demographics of crime, of the best jobs, the best pricing. It'll break it all down to you. Something that I found out about Sullivan, Missouri is that, and I saw that physically there, was that there was no like home base traffic. Everything's spread out. Houses are acres between one another. I'm not in a metropolitan area. I'm in the suburbs over here. So the people that are going there, they don't live there. It's a lot of traffic that's coming in short term. So I got to know that. And when I look at bestplaces.net, it confirmed that to me to tell me that the population of Sullivan, Missouri is 5,000 people. So I got to know that when I take over this business, I'm not catering to the people that are there, although that I could. For the most part, it's transient. And I need to make sure that when I bring these people in, they stay longer, because something that I found out is that they're only there for the average is about a day and a half to 2 days. So now my job is, how do I get people to stay longer? And can I improve these rates so that I can make more money in this business than what it's making now? So you'll take that into a deeper underwriting process, and you'll finally make it to the official logo. And logo, I think, is so funny because when you do the list of your pros and cons, and you originate your calibrated questions, and you go see the property, and you do that a couple of times, after all that, you'll finally go, oh, that's when you make your offer. Because you will have done all of those three things, and you will officially know what will be the next and best final offer. And I say next and best because you are, like I said, from beginning all the way to the final moment, you are in a negotiation period. You will be able to change things up all the way through to the very end. Deadlines are arbitrary. They can be changed. They can be extended. You want to do the first 3 steps multiple times, because poor implementation is the cancer that eats your profits. You don't want to necessarily take this process lightly. It's very important that you take it very seriously. And if you could just break it down by you just trying to be a very good doctor, to diagnose the situation that you're in, to prove what it is that you think is going to be the problem or the improvement wrong, then you're going to be able to set yourself up for success. Okay. You might even need to go see this property multiple times. Always ask for verification in the form of supporting documents, and you'll continue this during your LOI, even to the point of you finally making an offer, an official offer. The entire due diligence period, including that LOI that's accepted, even when it's under contract, is a negotiation period for you to confirm your best and officially your final offer. You're always thinking to yourself, am I buying this right? Am I buying this right? Should I make it lower? If I made it lower, is that going to improve it? Is this going to make it better? You need to constantly be questioning this, okay? Your goal right now is to get an LOI accepted so that you can just get to review. Just get to a review process. This is not something, don't get yourself all caught up about this. An LOI accepted does not mean that you've got money into this business and then you're under contract and you're going to buy it. No, this is a review process. And you're always going to buy a business. Buying a business is almost always a yes, if. Yes, I'm interested in buying the business if I can see a P&L. I know what the asking price is. I know some of these other things. It's always a yes, if, until it's an absolute no. And that's when you've proved your hypothesis wrong, or you know that the seller's needs or requirements just don't align with yours. The laundromat didn't work out. Although that laundromat, I ended up proving my hypothesis wrong, which was I was saying that she did not make that much money in coins. I said she did, no way she does. And I had to go be there physically multiple times to count the coins. And sure enough, she actually did that in coins. The problem is that the seller's needs, she wanted the cash. She wanted the cash, but the problem is that it didn't align with mine, because in order for me to get the cash, I needed to have the right management in place. And because we were losing the management 2 days before closing, I was not ready to just give her the cash. So you need to be ready to walk away. You need to have emotional regulation into this. You need to have self-control. It's very exciting to get to this point. Your next steps after this is to go find a business you are interested in. I don't care if you like it. Your wording is, I'm interested in this business, and then the right documents that you need and how to start your first log. And you will put together and send an LOI based on those findings. I hope that the breakdown of how an offer should be based around with the multiple and figuring in what the seller is making, not the annual revenue, what the seller is making at the end of the day, to include the real estate if it does have it, and to always account for your own due diligence of what you will need to do, not what the seller is telling you you need to do, what you will need to do in order to improve that business. So thank you very much. I literally went so much over time, but told you I was so excited about sharing this with you guys. And I really hope that this has set you up to now take the next steps to go look into a business. I don't know if you guys have any questions. If you do, you can ask away. If not, I wish you all a very Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. And I'm always here for you guys, 100%. If you guys need me, some of you, for the most part, I think all of you have my number. So I'm very grateful for you and being here and really entrusting in me to share this value with you. I'm super excited for you guys to move into some good asset classes and to add more to your cash flow. So I'm really excited to be a part of that journey. Now I'll just move into a breakout room and we'll dive deeper into the reports for my VIPs. But if not, for everyone else, no questions. I will see you, Rich. I will definitely call you.
I have a question.
Super short. I made that time super short, but I will absolutely call you when I'm back in Missouri. So,
I have a quick question.
yes.
If you have a business that you know or potentially could be a very good business and you've been there and you've seen it, but they have no books, do you try to ever piecemeal things together? For certain situations, they have no tax records, no books, no nothing.
Yeah, I do. So that's a yes. I'm interested in this business if on these terms. So now you've got to create the offer. Now is going to be strictly off of how you would buy the business, because they have nothing to prove a number that they would want. I want $1 million. Okay. You got the financials to show me? Oh, no. Okay. Then it's not $1 million. In those types of situations where you need to do the verifying, a way to work that offer is, okay, I want to actually take over this business I want to be in this business for maybe 30, 60, 90 days and allow me to see with my own eyes the income that's coming through, the work that's involved, so that I can determine for myself. Because if you've got nothing to show me, I'm not just taking over a business blindly or offering you something blindly. I need to see this. And so that can be part of your terms. I'll agree to this if and only I can do this. And then if they're not open
That's
to that,
great.
then it's not a real deal. So
Yeah.
you
Good
can get
stuff.
creative. Yeah, you can definitely get super creative with your terms, especially and the right documents. It's up to you. It's your discretion. But if they cannot provide it, it's in your benefit. So if they can't provide it, then all right, then that's going to change up my offer a little bit and you'll continue.
Groovy. Thank you.
All right, awesome. All right. Anyone else? Love seeing your beautiful faces. Bye, Casey. Bye, Terry. Bye, Wendy. Actually, Wendy, you deserve a special shout out. Congratulations to you for making it through all of your treatment. I am so excited for you. I'm like very grateful to even have you here showing up, probably while you're not feeling 100%. But
Awesome job, Ashley. This was phenomenal.
Thank you so much,
awesome.
Yep. Thanks a
Awesome.
lot.
everyone.
Awesome, guys.
Talk to you soon.
All right. See you guys.
Yeah, very amazing. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. You're welcome, guys. I'll see you soon.